Section 1.
Section 1. You will hear a conversation between a woman, Clara, and David, a receptionist at Kingswell Leisure Center. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Kingswell Leisure Hub, David speaking. How may I be of assistance?
Oh, hello. I'm looking to enroll as a member. I was hoping to finalise the registration this afternoon, if you have the capacity.
Certainly. I'll just need to populate our database with your credentials. May I start with your legal name?
It's Clara, and the family name is Whitmore. That's Whitmore.
Thank you. And your place of residence?
Well, I've just moved from number 40, but my current premises are 14 Birchwood Lane in Kingswell. The postal code is KW49PL.
Understood. And what is your current vocation?
I'm actually stationed at Kingswell General. I've been practicing as a nurse there for 3 years, though I previously considered a career in pharmacy.
A vital role. And how did our facility come to your attention? Was it the local circular?
I did see a flyer at my physician's surgery, but I didn't actually act on it until I navigated to your official website to check the opening hours.
Splendid.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 6 to 10.
Was there a specific discipline you were interested in?
Yes, I'm quite intent on joining a yoga collective. Which days are the sessions conducted?
We have a bi-weekly schedule. We've discontinued the Monday slot, so we now run a session on Tuesdays, though the Wednesday slot is far less congested if you prefer more space.
Tuesdays are out, as I'm on a double shift, so the latter option is ideal.
Perfect. And what's your proficiency level?
I was quite diligent about it 4 years ago. I probably consumed 20 or so digital tutorials, and I almost joined an advanced group back then. However, after such a long hiatus, I think it's prudent to start with the beginner cohort.
A wise choice. Regarding the remuneration for the class, the standard tariff is £12, but as you're joining the introductory group, it's only £9.
That's quite economical.
It is. Now, regarding storage, will you require a secure locker?
Yes, please. What are the dimensions?
We have a high-capacity unit for those with heavy apparatus, but most find the small unit sufficient for a compact bag.
Since I'm coming straight from the ward, I'll only have my satchel. The smaller one will suffice.
Excellent. There is a fully refundable security bond of £15. We used to keep it at 10, but we had to adjust it recently due to key replacements.
That's fine. Can I settle the balance on arrival?
Absolutely. We'll see you then.
That is the end of Section 1.
Section 2.
Section 2. You will hear a heritage guide, James Hartley, introducing visitors to the Victoria Market Hall in Kingsford. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Good morning, everyone. I'm James Hartley. Before we head inside, I'd like to debunk a few myths regarding the recent overhaul of Victoria Market Hall. Now, while the fact that we managed to shave a few weeks off the projected deadline was certainly a relief, and the favourable final balance sheet, which surprisingly didn't exceed the budget, was a bonus, neither of those quite reached the level of extraordinary for me. What truly defied our expectations was when the contractors stripped back layers of 20th century concrete to reveal the 1887 mosaic flooring. To find the Victorian craftsmanship entirely pristine after decades of burial was frankly the highlight of the entire renovation. Historically, the market's doors were shuttered in 1974. If you consult the local archives, you'll see a lot of rhetoric regarding the instability of the roof. Now, engineering post-mortems show those flaws were hardly terminal. No, the death knell for the market was the precipitous decline in patronage. Following the inauguration of the Ring Road shopping precinct in '71, the steady erosion of the customer base over the subsequent 3 years simply made the facility's overheads unsustainable. Once inside, you'll see our 43 food vendors. The media has fixated on the notion that we are a hub for organic-only produce, but that's a common misconception. While such goods are available, the hallmark of this marketplace is actually the academic pedigree of the vendors. It is highly irregular to find a site where nearly every proprietor has recently acquired formal culinary credentials, a far cry from the amateur enthusiasts you find at most street markets. For those accompanied by juveniles, I'd advise against wandering aimlessly. While the cafe is tempting, prioritizing the interactive heritage workshop is my firm counsel. Since the sessions occupy them for 40 minutes on the hour, it allows the guardians a window to survey the architecture unencumbered.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 15 to 20.
Now, let's look at the layout. Firstly, the arcade. It holds the distinction of being the inaugural zone to welcome visitors back in 2019, but its true merit lies in its stock. We've enforced a strict mandate here. You won't find a single mass-produced item. Every artifact is the work of a regional, non-affiliated artisan. On the floor above, we have the Heritage Gallery. We've spent a fortune curating the archives here. It isn't just a room of dusty books, it's a comprehensive repository of 19th century ledgers and photographic plates, all painstakingly preserved to provide a paper trail of our mercantile past. If you continue upward to the rooftop garden, the reward is the vantage point. On a day as clear as this, the urban sprawl of Kingsford is laid bare, offering a sightline that carries the eye past the rail infrastructure all the way to the horizon. Down in the lower hall, the space has been completely reimagined. It's no longer just a trading floor, it's a theatre for traditional trades. You can observe blacksmiths and weavers executing age-old techniques right before your eyes. It's live education in motion. Tucked away behind that is the community room. It's a versatile space.
While it's frequently requisitioned for private galas once the sun goes down on Saturdays, its primary function is to serve as a permanent base for our local residents' guilds and literary circles throughout the working week. Lastly, there's the annex. Because of a significant logistical bottleneck involving the subterranean drainage, this section lagged behind the rest of the project by nearly a year. It only reached completion well after the main festivities, making it the final piece of the puzzle to fall into place. Shall we?
That is the end of Section 2.
Section 3.
Section 3. You will hear two geography students, Sophie and Tom, discussing their joint research project on urban heat islands. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Right, Tom. We need to reach a consensus today. I've been reviewing our Week 3 data harvest, and frankly, it's substandard.
What's the issue? I thought the fact that we took readings at irregular intervals throughout the day was our biggest hurdle.
That was a nuisance, yes, but we can smooth that out statistically. And I know you're worried about the precision of the borrowed sensors, but their margin of error is actually negligible for our purposes. No, the fundamental flaw is that we failed to account for meteorological variables, specifically the presence of cloud layers. Without adjusting for that, our surface temperature readings are essentially meaningless.
I see your point. Now, regarding the literature review, I was going to suggest we lead with the fiscal implications. The economic drain of heat-related health issues on the city budget is a powerful hook.
It's a compelling narrative, Tom, but it's tangential to our core thesis. Our data is all about the mitigation potential of urban greenery. If we don't make the cooling effects of vegetation our centerpiece, we're moving away from our strongest evidence.
Fair point. Let's stick to the botanical evidence. Now, about that data set from the Regional Climate Observatory. The methodology is impeccable, but I've found a structural deficit. The logs are strictly diurnal. There isn't a single entry recorded after the clock strikes 12 noon.
That's a gaping hole in the archive. We can't analyze heat dissipation if the data ceases at midday. We'll have to acknowledge that limitation.
Agreed. I also wondered if we should calculate a financial forecast for the green initiatives we're proposing. You know, a cost-benefit model?
I think that veers too far into urban planning. To truly bolster our analysis, what we need is a baseline. If we don't include a comparative set of readings from a rural locality, somewhere untouched by concrete, our urban data has no contextual frame.
That's a sophisticated addition. Dr. Pierce will appreciate that. Now, what's our standout discovery from the mapping?
Everyone expects us to talk about the green roofs. And yes, the thermal drop there exceeded our projections, but that's well-documented territory. To me, the revelation was the spatial distribution. The way the heat wasn't just uniform, but was viciously localized within the most high-density built environments. That's our lead.
I agree. It was much more concentrated than we thought. Now, the conclusion. You wanted to extrapolate our findings to show what the city will look like in 2075 based on climate shifts.
Yes, I think we should be bold.
I'm going to veto that. If we start making sweeping forecasts, we lose our academic rigor. We should remain conservative and ensure our policy suggestions are tightly bound to the existing data, rather than speculative futures.
I suppose caution is the better part of valor.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 27 to 30.
Now, for the final touches, I'm determined to integrate the historical weather logs from the 1980s to give us some depth.
Good. And I've already drafted an abstract for the spring conference. It's a perfect platform for us.
Excellent. We also need to overhaul the methodology section. The paragraph on sampling is particularly opaque. It looks like we chose our sites by throwing a dart at a map.
I'll sharpen that up.
Lastly, Dr. Pierce noted that because we only worked in July and August, we need to discuss how seasonality might have skewed the results.
Right. Let's make sure that's addressed.
That is the end of Section 3.
Section 4.
Section 4. You will hear a lecture on the development of vertical farming as a response to urban food insecurity. Now you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning. Today we shall examine the evolution of vertical farming, a methodology designed to mitigate the crisis of food scarcity in our burgeoning megalopolises. At its core, this practice involves the intensive cultivation of crops within enclosed environments. By stacking growth modules vertically, these facilities, often housed in repurposed industrial hubs, maximize output while minimizing the physical footprint. Since these interior spaces are naturally dim, the reliance on artificial illumination is absolute. We typically see high-density LED arrays, specifically tuned to the blue and red wavebands to drive photosynthesis, effectively bypassing the need for a solar source. One of the most profound shifts here is the departure from traditional soil-based risks. Because the climate is strictly regulated, the requirement for pesticides is effectively rendered obsolete. The absence of external vectors means insect management is no longer a chemical battle, a development that has garnered significant praise from toxicologists.
Historically, the high capital expenditure required for such infrastructure acted as a deterrent. However, the paradigm shifted when the first industrial-scale operation was inaugurated in 2012. While its location in Newark was strategic, its legacy was the wave of investment it triggered across the Pacific Rim, where land premiums are staggeringly high. Efficiency is the sector's primary claim to fame. If we look at the hydraulic data, the results are startling. Modern hydroponic loops are so efficient that water usage is slashed by 95% in some documented cases compared to the profligate waste seen in open field irrigation. Furthermore, the logistical benefits are undeniable. By situating production hubs in the heart of the city, the overheads linked to the transportation of leafy greens and herbs are decimated. We move away from a model of long-haul trucking towards a localized hyper-proximity model. However, there is a caveat. The environmental win of reducing food miles is precarious. It is entirely contingent upon the facility drawing power from a renewable grid. If the LEDs and climate control fans are fed by coal-fired plants, the carbon-neutral goal is fundamentally undermined. This brings us to the sociological impact. In academic circles, vertical farming is increasingly viewed as a tool to combat urban food insecurity. In many low-income districts, the prevalence of food deserts, where processed calories are abundant but fresh nutrients are scarce, remains a persistent challenge. Pilot programs in cities like Detroit have shown promise, yet they remain fragile. Evidence indicates that without a consistent stream of financial backing from the municipality, these ventures struggle to cover their high energy bills and often collapse once initial grants expire. As we look toward the future, the strategy is shifting. Leading agronomists now suggest that instead of building massive isolated warehouses, we should be looking at integrated architecture. The most sustainable path forward appears to be the installation of growing systems directly onto the rooftops of new-build apartments and office blocks. This top-down approach embeds food production into the very skin of the city.
That is the end of Section 4.